All right, welcome everyone. This is a public meeting of the West Bend School District and School Board Curriculum Committee. It is 4:30 p.m. on November 4th of 2025. We will start with introductions. My name is Melanie Ergott, School Board Member.
June Kruger, School Board Member.
Kelly Lang, School Board Member.
Kelly Downs, Director of Curriculum and Instruction.
Tina Van Roo, District Data and Assessment Coordinator.
Erin Faust, Curriculum Coordinator.
Adrienne Schneider, Program Administrator.
All right, thank you. So the first item up for discussion on our agenda tonight is the curriculum review cycle process, and I believe Kelly Downs, our Director of Curriculum and Instruction, will be presenting this. Thank you.
So today we had hoped to have the teams that were in Evaluate to be here to give you their updates. However, after looking at where they were at in the process, we all decided they needed a little bit more time. So they'll be coming in person in January to give you their updates. But what I can tell you is that these teams that are in the Evaluate stage, remember that's the first stage where they look and they go, what do we have? That's all they're looking at, like what standards are we covering, what units are we covering, what have we done? They have also completed their deliverables for this phase up through these past couple of PD days, and they have completed their vision statement for each of their areas. They've completed learning goals. They developed team norms to make sure that these teams are engaging in a healthy way through the process. They've also done a data analysis summary where they're looking at data from the packages that Tina has provided for us. So they've been really digging in deep into this work. They are currently working through the heat maps. So basically documenting where all the standards are taught, in what units, to what proficiency level. And so that's what they needed a little more time on. So we will be bringing that work back to you in January so you can get an update from all of these teams. They're moving really well and working really well together.
All right, does anybody have any questions for Kelly on that? No? All right, thank you. The next item up for discussion is the Q2 book club updates. And it looks like Erin Faust, our curriculum coordinator, and Adrienne Schneider will be presenting that.
Yes, thank you. So actually for Q2, so we have grades 6, 7, and 9 who will be participating in book clubs for Q2. And the offerings for Q2 are the same as they were last year, with the exception of a title from Q4 going to Q2, just for better alignment with what they are teaching within the course scope and sequence. So otherwise, there are no additions that are happening. And so there's really nothing that you need to take action on to the board.
All right, so it sounds like just a simple switch from Q4 to Q2 for the 9th grade, and then everything else will be the same. So that sounds like a pretty benign change. Does anyone have any questions on that one? No. Okay. The next item up for discussion is the review of Amplify CKLA supplementary novels, and Adrienne Schneider will also be presenting this.
Ashley, how do I get to my tab? There's a tab though that has, like, you know how in Google Docs, there's a tab on the side. This side here.
Just finding the right slide up there.
I didn't know there was a link. Are you going to do two-factor too? Yeah, can you grab my phone? Okay. So while she's getting that up, just to give you kind of the background of this, we are utilizing Amplify CKLA for literacy instruction in grades K through 5. In grades 3, 4, and 5, yeah, thank you. There are supplementary materials that have not been used up to this point, but can be used. And we are, currently, we have a good board policy and procedure in place for book clubs. And these novel guides do not meet the definition of book clubs, but we thought that it would be appropriate to exercise caution to look at the books in the same way that we would for the novels that are utilized in book clubs. So there are 6 total novels that are used, 2 at grade 3, 2 at grade 4, and 2 at grade 5. These would be utilized in the classroom for supplementary instruction for enrichment. So when the teacher is at the 3rd and 4th grade level, there is like a win time instruction, so win time in the day. So there might be kids that are receiving reading intervention during that time. Other students might be working on another skill development. This is an opportunity for students who might have some enrichment opportunities. There are a menu of options that the teachers can use. These titles are 2 of them that are supplied within our CKLA resource. So the resource itself provides student guides and teacher guides with these novels. And so the teachers, if they would choose to, could use it with small groups of students. So we're looking for some guidance, discussion amongst yourselves, if, whether to apply the same board policy with the novel guides in the same structure as it is for book clubs. In using the book club threshold, there are 3 novels out of the 6 that exceed the threshold. So within each of those 3 categories of graphic violence, obscene language, and sexual content, there are, the K through 5 standard is none across the board. There are in 3 of those titles, 2 at the 4th grade level and 1 at 5th grade, where either in obscene language or graphic violence, there may be some there may be something in there that does have that. And that's in the document that I have displayed as well as what you have access to. So we just welcome discussion about that and guidance going forward with it.
Okay, I don't think that I have what that is up there. I don't see like the actual books.
Agenda, and then it's under attachments rather than the, like, highlighted, so it's that link.
Okay, that's different. All right.
Requires
Okay,
a
now I'm-
login.
Okay.
Okay. It's probably because we're using Google's tab feature there.
Oh, that could be. So I can go through just to
Yeah,
share.
say, I can't see the.
Okay, that's okay. I can provide them to you here. So at grade 3, the 2 titles are Flora and Ulysses, and Stella Diaz Has Something to Say. You can see that under graphic violence, sexual content, and obscene language, it is none. There isn't any, there is none of it in any of those categories. So those books would be fine to utilize in that nature. Going down into 4th grade, we have Hello Universe by Erin and Trotta Kelly. And in graphic violence, there are 2 scenes, if you will, that in which graphic violence could exceed the threshold that would be applied using board policy. One in which there's a main character named Chet who targets one of the characters in the story, and he takes a pet guinea pig, which is in a bag in a backpack, and then throws that backpack. He doesn't know that the guinea pig is in the backpack, but he throws it down a well and then tries to harm also the main character. And then also in the story, Virgil, who is the character who is bullied, is shown to fantasize about retribution against Chet. And then there's some obscene language. I can read it out loud if you want me to, but I'd rather not. I can display it here a little bigger. I can big it.
I'm not on the email on that.
Melanie, I've got it a little bit bigger on the board there too, if you want to see it.
Got it, that's helpful. Okay.
So there's no sexual content, and then that is the obscene language that is used. And then there are some other less obscene bullying type name calling in the book as well. And then in A Season of Sticks Malone, it's a story about a boy who is coming out of he's in foster care, moves into a neighborhood. There is no sexual content or graphic violence, but there is that word said 3 times. And then moving into 5th grade, we have The Science of Breakable Things. This story does not have any graphic violence, sexual content, or obscene language within it. And then You Don't Know Everything, Jilly P. This story, the graphic violence, whether it's graphic or not is, I guess, up for, probably the reader's opinion. But the story, in the story, the larger scene of it is that, or that would be described as graphic violence, is that a minor character, meaning she's just a character who has a small role. She is deaf, which is a main theme of the book, is about ASL and the deaf culture. She is also Black. She is shot in the back 7 times by police while she's jogging at night. She's in the cross-country club, cross-country team, and she's running at night, and she is shot. There is no other information in the text beyond that. There is no sexual content, and then that is the statement that is made in the story for the obscene language. So that's kind of the basis of what would be kind of within those, at those thresholds with if we would apply it for what is based on board policy right now with the book clubs.
Can you explain again the usage of these books? Like who would have, just tell us one more time on when you would get this book.
Yeah, so the difference too with the book club is with book club, students have choice with the books. In this situation, students wouldn't have choice with the book. So a teacher, they could, the parent would, the teacher would say, here's the book that your child would be reading. We're going to be participating in this graphic, or not this graphic novel, in this novel guide as part of our enrichment. But so what would happen is generally it would be for students who are just needing some additional enrichment opportunities. So it might be a group of 4 or 5 students within one classroom, or they might even pull kids from across multiple grade level or multiple classrooms at one grade level to do kind of like a discussion group. So it would be selected, it would be identified students, a small number within one classroom. There are a variety of activities that are within the teacher guide and the student guide. So it can be teacher driven. It can also be student led. It really would be teacher discretion for how they are applying it based on what else they are doing within their classroom at that time. It may be a mix of both, that they would be leading some things out and then also be saying, and now with your group, I want you to do X, Y, Z. So we have not yet utilized this. So I would be working with principals to, kind of monitor how it's being used. 5th grade is not currently in a space where they're ready to use it because they're just implementing this year. But they do, there is one teacher who has previously used this resource in the past and is ready to use it, but was looking for guidance and has held off until this point.
you guys? For me, I think I struggle probably more with everybody with these these type of novels and things being added. I would like to stay within the thresholds that the board had decided and not include books that are exceeding, especially at these lower levels. I don't know if I get this is like a vote, but my opinion on this is like I don't want to see anything exceeding those thresholds in these, especially in these lower grade levels.
So I think my understanding, and correct me, I've not run this solo yet.
Yeah.
My understanding is that for the ones that do exceed threshold, it would then go to board, full board for a vote. Is that correct?
That was part of the process for book clubs, as they were the primary resource. Unfortunately, these fall under supplementary resources, so we haven't crossed that bridge yet in what the process should be. We just wanted to exercise caution and be transparent before, potentially introducing some, all, or none of these to the kiddos.
Right.
So since it's a supplementary resource, we wanted to bring it to you guys to see what we should do to move forward.
Are you saying supplementary resources fall under required curriculum? Okay, you're saying no. So this would be, but as a teacher, would you require your students, if they're in this enrichment program, to read these books?
As Adrienne mentioned, when kids break up into small groups to work on what they need, whether it's I need more intervention, all the way up to I need more enrichment and challenging, there could be a group of students that are pulled together to use this. There's already a menu of things that kids have access to that are supplementary, that meet the needs for enrichment. This would be added to the table as a potential thing to add to that menu.
So I do have on the first page of the document, and I've just pulled it up here on the TV. I put together kind of what board policy and then the administrative rule is for these different components. And to what Tina just said, we have the, like, where it defines what the individual book selections for instruction looks like, which are often called book clubs. That's in the board policy. And then the AR, the administrative rule, talks about the instructional resources, and then saying supplementary resources are materials used beyond the primary text and workbooks to extend student opportunities for mastery. So these are in two separate kind of places, not within the same part of board policy, which is why we're feeling a little bit unsure of what applies. How do we proceed going forward? I think the intent in either direction would be parents would always have the opt-out option if they would have this book as an option for their child, because the teacher does believe that enrichment could benefit them. This is the title, and if you do not want your child to be a part of it, then they don't need to be.
So they would go to the families. These would be checked off like the book club, like parents would sign off on these, or they would not?
I believe it was, we talked about it as like an opt-out. So, I'm trying to recall back, Superintendent Wimmer had given some guidance earlier about that, and so I just have to circle back to her.
If that's the case, if it goes to families and they have the option to opt out, I am totally good with each individual family saying yes or no to this if they have the option for that. Then I stick with my like typical opinion on the book clubs and everything like that. It's up to the family to say, yeah, I think that's a good resource or not.
I would have to agree with Kelly with the offering it, because teachers think it's going to serve and help the journey of that student, but allowing opt-out is beneficial in this case. As well as, I think you said 3 of the 6 do meet the guidelines and 3 do not.
Yeah, unfortunately, fourth grade, neither of them do. And at fifth grade, one of the two does, and at third grade, they both do. So of the resource provided materials, that's what it looks like. So.
So then what do we do with this moving forward now?
I'm not sure if you want to then just bring those few titles to the board. I'm assuming that's the next step, Adrian, in our conversations with Wimmer. Anything that is within those guidelines that you want to put forth, I believe have to go to the board, but I might not be sure of that process. What do you remember?
I mean, I think, well, it goes to whether they are supplementary resources or book
It's true,
clubs.
they're supplementary. How do you want to categorize them? Right.
Because
if we
supplementary
categorize it as book
resources
clubs, then
are-
they go to the board. If they're
Right.
categorized as supplementary,
We don't.
they don't need to go forward.
So per the current, like what's displaying here, policy for supplementary resources, it's up to the professional staff. But we know,
That we still want to
yeah,
honor those thresholds that the board
Yes.
put forward.
yeah.
So maybe, does it maybe need to go back to policy too, that they maybe need to put, if they're novels like that, that they, because it is part, I mean, it's part of the curriculum, even if they don't aren't required to use it, right? Like, I feel like that should still be covered under the book club policies where we don't, I guess I don't really care what category it is. I don't want to see things exceeding those thresholds, like in the hands of the students, regardless of it's a primary or supplementary type of a resource. So I guess I would like to see that either, policy adjusts that wording a little bit maybe, but I would like to see it still covered under that umbrella where it's not gonna be exceeding that, whether it's supplementary or not.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah.
So what I hear you saying is that we would bring the three titles that don't meet the threshold, that exceed that, to the board then at the November 10th.
Yeah, I would treat it like a book club book, I think. If it's gonna be in front of the kids, personally, that's my.
Okay?
I would also venture to say the policy should be revisited to include which category does this fall under? Is it required curriculum, or is it is it curriculum, or is it?
Or bounce it off of Jen and see how she thinks we should direct it. But, yeah, I don't want to see
gap,
that.
yeah.
Yeah, there's a gap in the procedure there.
So what I'm hearing is twofold.
Yeah.
You're saying, one, we need to revisit policy and determine where this falls, or create a third category that encompasses this. Is that part clear? And then the second part is, if it doesn't meet the thresholds, that's one that would have to go forward to the full board for discussion? Am I understanding that correctly?
So I'm worried about rewriting the policy. I think that is a whole bigger issue that I don't think either committee or board wants to take on, because if we are looking at every single bit, right? I feel like this is a much smaller piece that we can talk and not need to necessarily rewrite the policy on all those resources.
I think just the supplemental, where does it fall? And that was where I was discussing.
Yes.
In the adding it to, deciding where it falls and putting that in the policy, not rewriting the whole policy, so that would be.
Okay.
Well, I think we
would
have,
be a
we have a clear understanding with this specific item. It does fall under supplementary because it's not required to be used in order to meet the fidelity of the resource. Students are going to receive a quality instruction with using the resource that we have, absent utilizing these novel guides. This is a supplementary resource because it can be used for an enrichment opportunity. We have other options for students in that manner. We just have not, we don't have it developed in the way that CKLA offers it with these novels. So if teachers wanted to do something with a novel, they would have to develop it themselves. So it's supplementary in the sense that it's an add-on. It's not a must-do part of from A to Z as a third grader experience. So I think in that context, it fits the definition of supplementary. It's just whether or not it,
Whether we want to use it or not use it based upon it exceeding the threshold?
I think really for the question that in my mind is it a book club within the use of it? And do we have to apply the book club procedure as part of it being a supplementary resource is kind of where.
If we didn't apply the book club procedure, would it just not be used because it's exceeding the threshold, or it doesn't really have a umbrella that would say that it can't exceed that because it's not a primary resource? Because I guess I'd just like to see, nothing exceeding those thresholds being used in the classroom, whether it's primary or secondary or whatever. I guess I was hoping that was all kind of covered, but maybe that was just missed.
I think this is just our first time crossing this type of supplementary material.
Sure.
This is our first go at it, and we're learning
Yeah.
the process with it, and trying to apply the appropriate process to it.
Right. And I think given that, if a threshold exists, and it exists for all levels, right? It exists for the high school, it exists for the middle school. But there are books that exceed that, and those are brought to the board. So if our policy is that, or if the practice is that they're not used if the threshold is exceeded, that's not the practice that's followed because they're brought to the board. So, we're looking to,
So then I
what is the
guess-
practice with this? Is it that if the threshold, so if we have books like this that we are able to say, okay, it exceeds the threshold and we know we just can't use it, we're not going to even bring it to the board because that it's just, it exceeds the threshold,
been
it's a
doing that with all the
no-go.
book clubs then, too.
Or the practice is it exceeds the threshold, we're going to follow the practice that has been in place, that we can bring it to the board for their discussion and action as to whether or not it can be used. So I guess that's where I've been, like, we have those
Trying to figure that
thresholds, but
out.
they've been allowed to be,
Yeah.
books are used that exceed that. And I have no judgment on that, I'm just,
Right.
stating that so I just don't know where these fall in under that, which is where, again, like, this is our first time through it.
Right.
And when it was asked, can we use these? Oh, I don't know, let's talk. So,
I also wonder if it's helpful to consider, when we go back to why did we put those thresholds in place in the first place? Are we getting caught up on the division of primary versus supplementary? Or was there another purpose for why you put the thresholds in place? I hear you saying we don't want that in the hands of kids at that age. If that was the spirit of it, does that mean something different for going forward? I guess I'm just urging you
Right.
to think back to what your.
Well, and I think it probably means there's different reasons for different board members as well, because like we all have different values and different people have different thoughts about it. For me, that's my value is like, I wouldn't want that, and I don't want to be responsible for putting that in the hands of kids. That's where I'm at. But I know not everybody else feels that way. I know other people are just, put it on the permission slip and let the parents decide. And I know that's generally the direction that the board seems to take on it. But that's where I'm at, so. So we just need to make a decision on, are we bringing this before the board? And I think probably that's.
I think,
Do
yeah.
a board vote it on that? I don't-
One point of clarification is, I heard you say that as a third grader, fourth grader, fifth grader, you'll receive a full like a full lesson with not using these supplemental materials. For the book club, I almost feel like it's very different. Those are books you read in small groups, facilitating learning and thinking about ideas in different ways. In this situation, because the kids are so young, I am a little leery of bringing these forward to the full board and just using the thresholds, in my opinion.
Yeah, I would agree. If there's other options and they're even on this, like they're still adding, and I understand that there is other values that they see in the books. But when you're talking about, third grade doesn't have any, but fourth grade, for example, I guess, is that worth the time to bring it forward again when we have set these for these kids that are little? And we're talking about 2, 3 titles. I guess in that case, I'd rather just cut it here and be like,
Omit it
yes,
and
like
not do
we,
these books?
that's,
Can we decide that?
yeah, can we decide that as this committee, or do they still have to go forward?
If they're supplementary and then they're not included on the book club category.
I feel like there's a lot of questions around this, and I'm not.
It's like too
Sure, where
much
to
for
start,
these couple
yeah.
books, like, do we have to use this resource
Right.
when it's not required?
I was like, no.
Yeah,
So one of the things that would be a wondering that I have is that, and I go back to within the supplementary resource, it, in policy, it says it's under the, judgment of the professional staff to utilize that resource. So with the thresholds in mind, if that process is followed, can we, we have at third, fourth, and fifth grade, we have, third grade would be fine to use their novels because they both meet the, they don't exceed the threshold. Fifth grade, one of the two are fine. It makes me wonder if we can do a little shifting that, one of the text novels goes to fourth grade. I don't know, we'd have to look at, appropriateness for the, for what it is, but being that 3 of them meet our, don't exceed our threshold, within the judgment of the staff to say, applying these measures, these books are fine, we will proceed. Applying these measures, these thresholds are exceeded, they can't be used, done. And then it's just, that's our practice in the
supplementary.
use of
range.
supplementary resources when it comes to novels that students are using in this manner that wouldn't be, in the definition of a book club.
Right.
I also think too, I do really like to keep it in the hands of the teachers, because I also think that they are having the conversations with the students who know who can handle this and who may not be able to handle this. And so if there is one that is like, they really, yes, it exceeds it, there's always an asterisk under what doesn't fall. Like, just because we set these does not always mean that we are this is the final, in my opinions. They are the professionals in this situation, and I have full trust in what they are suggesting. So if Hello Universe is like, we need this, there are certain students who would really benefit from this, and even though it does exceed that, I think that those are still conversations to have, and I don't want to necessarily just be like, no, we're done and over, because we have to also remember that they're putting them in front of the kids that they know would be mature enough to handle some of these. So just something to keep in mind, and I know that just muddies everything else, but like, I hate being like this, like, rigid, strict yes or no when there are reasons behind these. So, sorry, that doesn't help. But that's my thought.
So I guess, where does that leave us now?
My wondering is, do we connect with policy committee to get a recommendation on how to proceed with supplementary materials if they do or
If they
don't
exceed
need
the
board
threshold.
action? Because we're kind of caught in
Yeah.
a gray space between
Right.
practice and policy. So maybe we don't need to take it to the full board yet, but maybe we could leverage the policy committee people and network to get a recommendation on how to move forward.
Yeah, I think,
Sounds like the policy problem.
Pass it. Just an idea to try to not take up the full
Yeah.
board's time, but also address the gap that we have discovered.
I think so, because I don't think this will be, like, this probably is not the last one that we're going to see. So if we start that, I think that's a good place to at least start the conversation.
so maybe we're not using the resource yet until we kind of iron out where this discrepancy is or the gaps in the process.
And that's exactly where we've been at. Teachers have been on hold with it. And we are very much in a wanting to do the right thing place for kids. And this has definitely surfaced, but what about this? What about this? Within the supplementary resources lane, if you will, when it comes to other texts that are utilized. So I think that could be a good venue with the policy committee to kind of bring those forward to them to better define what fits in there and how we apply that book club threshold guidance in that manner. Okay.
Okay.
Are we comfortable with the books that don't cross the threshold being used? As it stands?
Yeah.
Okay, so what you're saying will bring the idea for those three will be on hold. And the other ones, since they don't, are fine for the teachers to use at this time. The rest we're going to investigate with policy.
Yes.
All right. Thank you. Anything else on here?
All right. So we have what we need there. Okay. All right. So then we will move on to the next item on our discussion list for tonight is high school course planning guide recommendations. And I believe Kelly will be presenting that.
So every year, our high school team needs to get together and decide what changes need to be made to the course guide, any updates and things like that. So we've compiled the list here for you from what they have come up with their committee. They basically fall into 4 different categories. The first category is modifications to prerequisites. The intention behind those, or some of it's just cleanup that wasn't, brought forward or cleaned up from past. But in general, most of the prerequisites are being done to expand access to our students. So opening up access to different classes that before we said had to have a certain requirement, you'll see a lot of them say recommended now, in order to get improved class enrollment as well and improve that access. Another area you'll see are removal of courses. This is really just reflecting past work that's come to the board in the past, but it's also to avoid confusion because we have some courses in there that students don't really select. They're not offered to them in that. They're not self-selected by the student. They'd be ones that people would place them in. So it doesn't make sense to have them within that guide. The third category are flow charts. We had flow charts that showed, pathways. And with increased descriptions, we wanted to make sure those were consistent. So those are now updated to be accurately reflecting the pathways that are being put forth with these changes. Another category is the CTE updates. So Tim had presented some at the last meeting, but we have the EMT and the fire are now going to be accessed through our Start College Now program. So that's indicated there. And then the youth apprenticeship is adding 2 new opportunities for them in the government administration and human services. So that's also reflected in the changes. Finally, there's some course fees. They're just updated to reflect the transportation costs that are also involved in those. So you can see all the specifics that are listed here one by one, but that's generally where those categories fall.
All right, thank you. Yeah, I don't really see any red flags or anything here. It's just kind of rewording and rearranging some things. And you guys have any questions or comments on that one?
Looks good.
Looks good. All right. Okay, so I think if you have nothing else to add on that one, then I will go ahead and close the meeting. It is 5:11 p.m. Thank you.